So this chapter, this is the first chapter for you, that is correlation and regression analysis. Now in this correlation and regression analysis, first we will be learning about correlation analysis, and then we will learn about regression analysis. Okay, so we will first see what is correlation and all the information about the correlation. Okay, so concentrate well. This is very, very important chapter for you. Now, in the cases of measures of central tendency and dispersion, we deal with the data on single variable only. So they provide us information relating to only one data. It is something like, for the number of years, what is the sale? Okay, so that is only one data. So you will have number of years, you will have number of years or years 2000, 2001, 2002, and then you will only have, let's say, sales. Sales is 92,000 units, 45,000 units, 101,000 units. So there is only one data, that is sales. Okay, years is not considered here. Okay, there's only one data given. If you are supposed to find mean, median and mode. You remember solving mean, median and mode in the previous semester? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am.
So that is measures of central tendency and dispersion, which we learned. But when it comes to real situation, okay, when it comes to practicality, we will use mean, median, mode. But even more practically, we will have to understand the current situations. Okay, so in correlation, we will be studying about relationship between two or more variables. How do we use these two or more variables? Okay, so the best example that you can understand is production and sales. Only if you produce, you will be able to sell, right? So if at all the production, okay, let's say if at all the production is 40, or let's say 100 units, we have produced 100 units in the production. This is production. Okay, now out of 100 units in production, I have sold only 70 units. This is sales. So I can say 70% of my sales are complete. Out of 100 products, if I sell 70 units, then I can say 70% is complete and 30% of my products are still remaining. So I am getting a relationship between the production and the sales. Similarly, advertising and sales. This also works out very well. The more you advertise the product, the more people understand and know about the product, they will be interested to buy the product. So that is the relationship between advertising and sales. Rainfall and agricultural productivity. In the monsoon season, in the month of June, July, August, you are supposed to get monsoon. Okay, and if you get proper monsoon, you will have good agriculture. Okay, if the rainfall reduces, agriculture is disturbed because there is no enough water and the rain is not equally spread throughout all the place. So there is less rainfall, there is less agriculture produce. On the contrary, if at all there is too much rainfall, like what is happening now, you have floods happening everywhere. So if it is too much of rainfall and too much of floods, then also is a problem. Understood? So here in correlation analysis, we will be understanding the close relationship between two or more variables which is related to business. Okay, so that is your correlation, and there are a lot of examples. All these examples you can understand. Price and demand. If price increases, demand decreases. Okay, if price decreases, the demand will increase. Now let's take for example 1 kg carrot. Carrot is being very expensive nowadays. Carrot and peas. Okay, these are very expensive vegetables nowadays. Quite 2 weeks back, you have no onions are still pricey. Okay, tomatoes got pricey suddenly. I think last month it went up to 45, 60 rupees and all kg. Now let's take for example carrot. Now carrot 1 kg is 110 rupees. Few places it is 100, few places it is less and more. Okay, I'm taking an average price. 110 rupees is 1 kg of carrot. Now since the carrot price is high, or since the carrot price is more, people will not, people are not convinced to buy carrots that easily. So which means the demand for the purchase of carrot will come down. Okay, now once the demand comes down, why did the demand come down? Because the price went high. So the relationship between the price and the demand is, if price goes high, the demand comes down. It is a inverse relationship. Inverse means one will go up, one will come down. Okay, on the contrary, I mean oppositely, if at all you take let's say now all the vegetables are quite high. Okay, let's take for example, let's say sometime later if tomato comes to 6 rupees per kg. Okay, there are chances. Okay, 6 rupees per kg. Now it is raining very heavily, so that is why all that rain effect has come on the vegetables, so the price is high. Okay, so if let's take tomato is 6 rupees per kg. Now the price is less. The price is very less. So the demand for tomato will go high. More people will start buying tomato just because the price of the produce is less. Another best example, we'll go to a mall. Okay, if at all we happen to visit a mall and you see buy two get one free sale happening, instead of buying only one dress or one shirt, you will buy two shirts and take one more free. Correct? But your intention in the starting was only to buy one shirt. But since there is an offer, you went on and bought two shirts, and for the two shirts, you got one shirt free. So that is how the price and demand will increase or decrease. I hope you're all able to follow. Then, in these relationships, we may be interested in knowing, does there exist an association or interrelation between two variables? Now, does price and demand are related? Rainfall and agriculture are related. Now, the farmers wait for the rainfall. The natural rainfall is the best, food for the crops. Okay, or is there a relation between input and output? How much raw materials have you bought and how much production have you done? So if at all they are related, then to what extent are they related? How do we understand the dependency on each other? Now, how can I understand what is the demands dependency on the price? Now you have mask. Okay, mask now you will get for 20 rupees also, 40 rupees also. But when the pandemic started, somewhere in the month of March starting and February ending, March starting, you were finding mask everywhere, but in the medical stores only, right? And each mask was costing you somewhere around 400 to 600. I have also heard that few masks were costing 800 rupees. That is use and throw. Even though it is use and throw, they used to charge so much. Why? The demand was high. The demand was high, so people also thought they will try to get more price. Okay, but now if you see, you get cotton mask, you get wildcraft mask, you have many other companies who have come out with mask. Every company has mask because that is the new normal. And even one step ahead, all the textile companies are giving mask free of cost along with the dresses or the clothes that they are sending it to you. Fine. So all this we will be able to understand through correlation analysis. So let us see. It measures the degree of closeness of relationship between the two variables. That is what we are trying to understand. So we are trying to understand the relationship or the closeness between price and demand, input and output, advertisement and selling. Now Dasara is going on. So you will see all the companies wishing happy Dasara and also giving offers. Okay, there are big billion sale and great Indian sale happening because of Dasara. Why do you think this keeps happening? Why do they target festival times? Because they know that the advertising at these times will increase their sales, so in return they would get good profit at a particular time. So that is correlation. Then the measures of correlation, called the correlation coefficient, summarizes in one figure the degree and the direction of covariance or correlation between two variables. So we will be finding something called correlation coefficient. Okay, so this correlation coefficient will help us understand what is the closeness between the two factors that we are considering. And then whenever two variables are so related that a change in one variable is accompanied by the change in value of the another. So if at all advertising changes, sales will change. If production changes, sales will change. If demand changes, price will change. If price changes, demand will change. If rainfall changes, agriculture productivity will change. If agriculture productivity has changed, it is because of rainfall. So if one factor changes, the other factor also will change in a similar manner. Okay, so that increase or decrease in one variable is accompanied by increase or decrease in another variable. Okay, understood? So this is your correlation analysis. So we understand the relation between two or more variables in depth. Okay, so until now whatever statistics you have learned and understood is all the basic part, but now we are going in the in-depth of the statistics to understand correlation and regression. Okay, so in that in-depth, let's say the statistics is a ocean. Okay, you have so much to learn, but this is the first basic concept. This correlation and regression is the first basic concept that every student should know. Every student should know the correlation and regression analysis, because that is the basic part. Doesn't matter if you're from science background or commerce background, this is applied even in finance. Okay, this is applied even in your finance and in some part of accounting also. Clear? Understood the introduction part of correlation? Any doubts? Okay, now moving on further is the definition of correlation. Now, since we have understood correlation well, let's just glance through the definitions. We have more definitions given to us here. The first definition is given by A.M. Tuttle. Okay, so what does he say? He has given a very simple definition which says correlation is an analysis of the covariation between two or more variables. So we are trying to understand and learn what are the variations or changes that might happen from one variable to another. So that is your covariation, and that is understood as a correlation. So A.M. Tuttle says correlation is an analysis of covariation between two or more variables. Next, Croxton and Cowden. Croxton and Cowden is giving a different definition. Now, what is that definition? When the relationship between two variables of a quantitative nature, okay, quantitative nature, the appropriate statistical tool, one second. Okay, so the appropriate statistical tool for discovering and measuring the relationship and expressing it in a brief formula is known as correlation. So first of all, we are trying to do it in a quantitative nature. So numbers will be involved. And we are trying to find the relationship between of the two variables by using the appropriate statistical tool. And what is that statistical tool? That is correlation. So using correlation, we are going to measure the relationship between the two variables which are of quantitative in nature. I hope you understood. So what is Croxton and Cowden saying? So it is a relationship between two variables. These two variables are quantitative. They are numbers. Okay, they can be quantified. They are quantitative in nature. Now, this relationship between two variables which are quantitative in nature is solved using a statistical tool. Okay, solved using a statistical tool to understand their relationship. Okay, to understand their relationship. So this is known as correlation. Okay, this is known as correlation. That is the second definition. Now the next definition is by Ya Lun Cho, a Chinese or a Japanese person. Correlation analysis attempts to determine the degree of relationship between the variables. Another simple definition. Degree of relationship between variables means to what extent both the variables are connected with each other. That's all. Then coming to the next definition, L.R. Connor defines if two or more quantities vary in sympathy so that movement of one tend to be accompanied by corresponding movement in the other, then it is said to be correlated. If one increases, the other increases. If one decreases, other decreases. If one increases, other decreases. If one decreases, other increases. Any of one of these relationship can be found between two variables, then it is called as correlation. At the end of the day, everybody is trying to give the same meaning. Okay, so thus we can say that correlation is a statistical technique which measures the strength, degree, and direction of relationship. These three words are very, very important. Strength, degree, and direction of relationship or of covariance between two or more variables. Okay, so these are the definitions. If you remember two of the definitions, that would be fine. Choose easy, difficult, that is up to you. Out of 4 definitions, remember any 2 definitions, because 2 marks, one question is compulsory. Since it is for 2 marks, you should also understand how to write the answer. Okay, understood the definitions? Any doubts in the definition part? Can we go for the uses and significance? Okay. Now, next is uses or significance of a correlation analysis. Now, the study of correlation is very important in which all cases, where all do we use it? Okay. The correlation coefficient helps us in measuring the extent of covariance between two variables. Again, we come back to definition only, how these two are interrelated, how they once changes the other's value. So we are going to understand that using the covariance. So between two variables, if we understand that covariance, then it will be easy for us to calculate the correlation. Okay, so that is your first point. Then correlation coefficient helps in measuring the relationship between the variables in one single figure. So in one place only, you will be able to understand about two or more factors which is affecting you. Okay. Now let's take for example, what can be the factors for the COVID-19? If at all the immune system is very low, if a person is prone to cold and cough too much, okay, or if the person does not follow the hygiene properly, if he or she doesn't wash their hands and legs once they reach home, or if they go out, if they don't wear mask. See, you have some 5-6 reasons or 5-6 things which you can say, okay, if you don't do all this, you are prone to get COVID, right? So in one place and in one answer only, you will be able to understand all the reasons. Similarly, in a correlation, in one place, you will be able to understand the relationship between the demand and price, supply and demand, rainfall and agricultural productivity. In one place, we are trying to get both the information. Then, with the help of correlation coefficient, we can estimate the future value of the variable. Now, if we calculate correlation coefficient, we will be able to analyze what can be the next year's. Let's say we are trying to find out what can be next year's profit. Okay, so we can use this correlation and few factors and analyze and understand. Okay, next year, somewhere between 10,000 to 50,000, I will get the profit. So I get some bare idea of what I am trying to do. Now, if I understand that, estimation of future, I can take some steps or make some changes so that I will be able to increase my profit. Okay, I'll be able to increase my profit. Then correlation contributes to knowing economic behavior. It helps in predicting economic variables which are dependent on some other variable. Now here we took rainfall and agricultural produce. Now agricultural produce is dependent on rainfall. If there is no rainfall at all and there is no water at all anywhere, then it's the problem of drought. Even if there is no rainfall, if you have water available in the village, maybe in the river or in the lake, then agriculture or the farmer will be able to do his work. Understood? So correlation contributes to knowing economic behavior. It will try to understand what is happening in the economy. And the last point, in business, correlation analysis enables the business manager to estimate cost, sales, price, and other criteria given the other variables. So in business, we will be able to find out all of this a little hand before only. How do we get that? A little hand before only. How do we understand? By using correlation coefficient. So what are the uses of correlation analysis? Firstly, it will help make us understand what is the relationship between two variables. Second point, it will also give that relationship analysis in one single figure or in one single place. The third point, it will also help us to estimate for the future value of the variable. Then fourth point, correlation contributes to knowing economic behavior. What is happening in the economy, it will try to analyze it and adjust to that. Fifth point, in business, it will help us to estimate the future cost, sales, price, and let's say production and output and all that. So it will help us to plan well before. Now, so during lockdown, we never knew lockdown was going to come. So if we knew lockdown was going to come, we would have bought a lot of things and we would have stored it. So many people had to face shortage of food items and all that because of lockdown, right? So if at all we try to analyze the same thing in the business, okay, I'm not saying the pandemic will come over and over again, but there might be little ups and downs in the business. And if you are able to predict little of it, okay, then we can be, we can make our we can actually make our arrangements. So these are uses. Any doubts in this slide? Any doubts here? Quickly reply. Okay, now let us understand the disadvantages of correlation quickly. Okay, now in disadvantages, now we understood what are the uses and significance. Now there can be disadvantages also for correlation. In few cases, it might not apply at all. So that is also part of it. Now let's see one after the other point. Now, however, correlation coefficient must be used with great caution. Caution is like warning. You have to use it with warning. So there can be certain adverse effect or side effects of correlation. Then, though it is widely used statistical technique, it is also one of the most widely abused statistical measure. It is used by many people. Many of them use this correlation, but many of them misuse correlation. That is also the problem. So you have to be very careful when you see correlation analysis. It is well used, but it is also misused. Then it does not necessarily measure the cause and effect relationship between the variables. Now, what are we talking about cause and effect is something like rainfall and agriculture produce. There is a cause, there is rainfall, and the effect is agricultural produce is happening. Okay, agricultural produce is happening on a daily basis. Suppose the rainfall increases and there is floods. There is a cause, that is rainfall, and there is an effect, which is flood. Instead of crop growing, there is so much of water that it started flooding. This is cause and effect relationship. But if you take demand and price, I don't see much of cause and effect. Let's take, for example, advertising and sales. What is the cause? You can say because of advertising, sales is going up, but not necessarily. Okay, the sales might be increasing because you are giving offers and not just because you are advertising. Or let's say you have got a new order, that is why your sales are increasing, or you have got a new product, that's why your sales are increasing. There might be many other reasons also. That is what it is trying to say. Okay, next, correlation helps us to know the strength of relationship between the two variables. Sometimes if the strength of the variables is not good enough, then the correlation will not last for long time. Okay, so the strength of the relationship, it will measure. Then, but it fails to show the cause and effect relationship between the variables. So it will show us the strength of the variable, what is the power that it has to change the other variable, but it will not necessarily show the cause and effect relationship of the variables totally. So that is your one of the disadvantage. Now coming to the last disadvantage, existence of cause effect relationship between variables implies that there should be correlation between variables, but reverse. If one increases, other decreases, other decreases, one increases, that can be done. Or like how I told you, if one increase, the other increase. Here rainfall will increase, flood will also increase, right? So the existence of cause and effect relationship between variables will say that correlation is also there between the variables. So existence of correlation between variables may not have cause and effect between the variables. They're trying to say the same thing over and over again. So please understand what is the disadvantages. It is mostly misused concept in statistics, and correlation does not necessarily mean cause and effect all the time. But if at all cause and effect is present, it means there is correlation. It is something like that. Okay. So cause and effect, or let's say like this, correlation necessarily does not always mean cause and effect. But if there is cause and effect, there is correlation. Hope you all are able to understand. Okay, so that is what they try to explain us in the disadvantages of correlation. Now let us understand few of the types of correlation. Now what are the types? Correlation can be classified into the 5 major types. The first one is positive and negative, simple and multiple, partial and total, linear and non-linear, logical and illogical. So let us see what is positive and negative. Now, on the basis of direction which the variable moves, correlation may be positive or negative. By seeing the data given below, we will be able to understand how the data is going to move in a positive or negative direction. Okay, if both variables are moving in the same direction, then it is said to be positive, which means if one increases, and other also increases, this is known as positive. Okay, if one decreases and other also decreases, this is known as negative. Understood? So this is positive, where the variables are moving in the same direction. Okay. Oops, sorry. So if both, now if you see here, they're talking about same direction, right? So same direction means if both are moving in same direction, it is positive. Again, these both are moving in same direction, again it is positive. Okay, now let's see the example. When generally price of a commodity increases, supply of such commodity also increases. Now here we don't sit with year, supply, year, and then price. We will have two variables. One is price, another one is supply. Now, if you see the price per ton, when it was 100 rupees, supply was 50 units. When it increased to 120, supply also increased to 160. When it increased to 130, supply 75. When it increased to 140, it is 80. 150, 87, 170, 100. So the supply of tons have increased throughout the year. Okay, it has increased. Similarly, the price per ton has also increased. Okay, the price per ton is also increased. Now, since both are moving in the same direction, I call them as positive correlation. Understood the first type? Positive correlation. Any doubts until here? I want everybody to reply. Okay, good.